welcome to my channel, Haylee Marie Vintage. Today we are in a very different location. As promised, I am going to be reorganizing and decluttering my fabric collection. I try to do this once a year, but I felt like today is January 1st for me, even though this won't come out till later January. And I feel like the new year is the perfect time to get reacquainted with all my fabrics, as well as get them organized and get rid of some of the things I've been holding on to, because like I find them precious, I guess, in a way. There's a lot of things you buy early on in your sewing that hold you back in the end because you have so much fabric to deal with. So my goal today is to get rid of any fabric that just doesn't spark joy and I'm not excited to use for a project. That is the plan. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather all my fabric here in this area. This is my dining room area. I folded up my dining room and set it over there. Then I'm going to start sorting, destashing. My goal is, oh man, do I show you how scary this is? You know what? Sure. I assume you can see that here and over there. As you could see from that, there are 3 stacks of fabrics that currently do not fit in my fabric storage. My goal basically is to get rid of enough fabric that everything fits in all the storage I have set up for it. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I'm going to try to be pretty cutthroat in getting rid of things. One of my big goals here is to catalog my entire fabric stash. I anticipate this will take more than today. I anticipate working on it throughout the week, either in the evenings, early in the mornings, or to be working on it in the weekend. So we're going to kind of see how that goes. I feel a little overwhelmed now that I'm looking at all the fabric I have just out that I can see, but I think this will be really, really, really important to set myself up for project success in the new year. I will be using, it's called the Backstitch app for cataloging my stash. They are not yet open. You have to get in via their beta testers. You can sign up to be their beta tester. I think mine took about 2 months to receive my approval as a beta tester. Oh, there's the spooky. It's gonna be a day. Today is gonna be very busy. It is currently 10:40. I anticipate doing this till 5 with a noon lunch break. Yeah, we're just going to, I guess, get started by, I'm gonna put you into a time lapse while I work on getting all my fabric into one portion of my house. Wish me luck. I am going to need it today. Spooky's being a little cutie as always, and then I am just coming in and I am piling the fabric around. These are all the fabrics that have just been sitting around on my floor, and then I have all the fabrics that are up on my shelves. These are actually like in a proper place, but they are pretty heavy bins, so they take a while for me to get down. And then I have like a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that was not in the bins. And then I'm bringing in my big basket and I am going to be pulling my bench away from the wall. Here we are. I have gathered all the things. It made me tired and I'm even more overwhelmed than I was before, so that's super neat. My first order of business will be to sort everything out. Yeah, right now I'm not gonna lie, I'm just looking at everything and feeling very, very overwhelmed, so I just need to take it bin by bin, bit by bit. I think ultimately I will feel so much better once all this is decluttered, but right now it just feels really, really overwhelming. I likely am gonna start by, I guess, sorting out this trunk. Yeah, you can tell I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I think it was optimistic to think I could even make a dent in this in a day. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I feel like my enthusiasm just went boo because I am now like, shoot, I have so much fabric, but I can tell you I'm going to be getting rid of so much fabric, so that'll feel really, really good. With that, we're going to go into super speed where I start sorting, and I will tell you what I am doing in that footage. So first things first, I am pulling a bunch of stuff out of my chest. This is going to be the biggest stash of fabric, so I am pulling everything out. What is mostly in here is wool, linens, as in like tablecloth linens, and then a bunch of random stuff I shoved in here at some point. So I am pulling it all out right now to figure out exactly what I'm doing with it, and then anything you see me throwing to the side of the video is stuff that I have decided to destash. The way I decided what I would destash really varied. Sometimes it was how much fabric there was, sometimes it was the color, sometimes it was the feel. Generally it was just stuff that I'm not that excited about, so I am trying to basically declutter anything that I'm not like, wow, wow, this is so cool. What can I make with it? I am also sorting things into content. So I am stocking all my cottons, all my polyesters, all my linen, all my silk, wool, whatever, etc., etc. And then once that's done, I am going into bin. Again, anything that I am putting to my left-hand side is stuff I am decluttering. Everything else I am sorting by content. Some things though I have sorted by vintage versus like new. So there's some kind of confusing categories that make me scratch my head a little bit, but I am just working real hard on emptying this bin. I am then dumping out this bin. This bin was previously like projects that I'm thinking about how to use the stuff from, but I've decided to get away with that category because I just don't think it really works. So I am sorting that out into the rest of my fabric. I was becoming more and more exhausted by the second, and Spooky came in for some solid moral support, giving me little kisses and snuggles. She is the best, and she also came through about to give me a hug. However, at this point, once she had crossed my body and stepped onto what is the most expensive silk in my collection, I did pick her up and throw her out, especially because I realized at one point that her paws were very wet when stepping on everything. From here, I am now organizing my stash, so everything wool is going in here. Nothing goes into anything until it has been taken a picture of, as well as labeled with how many yards it was, as well as the width. I'll show you my process for that in just a few minutes. Once the chest is loaded, I take a quick break and pick up some food from 19 Gold. They are in Fremont in Seattle. I highly recommend them. They're a bit of a trek for me. However, it is well worth it and I'm always happy. I always get their dumpling soup as well as a green onion pancake and bubble tea. So that is my quick pick-me-up for lunch. It is so important when you're doing big tasks like this that take both a lot of physical labor as well as mental load to feed your body and give it the nutrients it needs to be able to perform the tasks. Now I am ready to show you my process. I have kind of honed this fabric organization for quite a long time. What I'm doing first is I'm just writing a quick name on a piece of cardboard that just does a loose definition of what this is in case the tag ever falls away from it. This is usually the box that cans come in that I just cut apart and then punch a hole using my sewing machine in to create these little tags that I will eventually safety pin on. And then once they're named, I am counting the yards as well as the thickness of each piece of fabric. This is really important because this helps me decide how I'm going to eventually use the fabric. So you'll see me here measuring those yards, measuring that width, and writing it down. And then of course I have to fold everything back up neatly. When you own as much fabric as I do in the lengths that it is, you get really, really, really good at folding things like this by yourself. And then what you'll see me doing here is pinning on the little tag with a tiny safety pin that I picked up at Seattle Recreative. I can always rely on going to them when I need more safety pins for this process. And you will also see I am taking photos of these so I can put them in that Backstitch app I was talking about. And I'm also making sure to take a picture of the tag so I have that yardage and everything all figured out. I used to just paper clip these yardage things on, but I have changed my mind on that because they fall off so easily and that is pretty annoying. And with that, I am finishing up packing my trunk. This contains all of my wools, silks, and rayons. And now it's time for me to reorganize my bins. So these bins sit super, super high up in my shelf and my current system is not working. So instead of keeping my linens in the chest, that's a little bit easier for me to get to physically, I've decided to move all my linens into this bucket because I'm not using this project very often. And since then this bucket will no longer contain my linings, I won't have to get to it as often. So this was definitely an ideal way to use this bin. For the little wire bin in front of it, I'm doing a couple things. First, I'm doing some velvet because I want to stack it vertically, essentially, because that way it will get less squished. I just don't think it's a good idea to squish velvet into anything else. And then I am also going to be loading all of my cotton linings, especially my colorful cotton linings, into this bin so they're on display and I can see what I have at all times. Last, this bin here, it's first going to contain all my leftover white cotton lining that I couldn't quite fit in the other bin, but then it is also going to contain all of my rayon linings, my silk linings, every other lining that I own basically. And I also decided to put my brocades in there just because I needed a spot to put all my brocades. I don't think this is necessarily the best organization system. I think I would rather have these either with the velvets or in my chest, but this is where they fit for now, so all my brocades are gonna sit in that. So now I'm down to my last bit of fabric that I have to get everything in these bins. So the sorting you see me doing here is first by color. I think it's just helpful if there's a color in each section. The bin up on my chest of drawers is the bin that I keep projects that I'm currently thinking about or working on in. So that is how or why fabrics are ending up in these bins. We already have some wool in there and other fabrics that I plan on working with very soon. The other bin is going to be where I hold all of my cottons and polyesters, and I am sorting them by colors to figure out how I'm going to put them in there. From there, you can see me adding in the fabrics to the bins. I'm first stacking up all the white fabrics in like a stack. Figuring out how to stick everything in this bin is not quite so easy. I think this actually is a storage option I would eventually like to phase out. In my ideal world, I am only storing fabrics in that big chest you see here, and then the other miscellaneous categories that I have on my shelf. Ideally, this big basket can be replaced by an end table that is cuter. Currently, this is my couch end table, and it's fine. It's not really what I want, but until I hoard less fabric, it is not an option to replace this. I need the storage. And then once I got all the different cottons in here photographed in catalogs, I'm figuring out how to stick them in the bin. This was a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and ultimately I have about 4 big things of fabric that I could not figure out how to store anything in. So those are currently stacked on the bench, but I am hoping to be able to store them very soon. So I didn't quite meet my goal for decluttering. So my very last step of this was some quality time with my computer that I did over the next few days, where what you see me doing here is first I'm uploading the photo, I'm getting the yardage from the other photo that I took, and then I am naming my fabric. Once I am in here, I can add additional things like the type of fabric it is, the composition, color, print, all sorts of good stuff. I put in as many tags as I can. Sometimes, like for example, I was looking for the word patchwork there. They don't have quite what I'm looking for, but this all just will help me stay organized. I am then also, of course, filling out all the different rankings, and then I am adding where I bought it. And I am also going to add in an approximate date of purchase as well as an approximate cost. So what you also see me going back here and doing is watching my old videos, which is super cringe for me, but I was trying to get a date around when things were brought into my fabric stash, where I sourced them, as well as cost ideally. I didn't always share cost as openly in the past in my channel, but I do still have a lot of different receipts and records available so I can get the correct cost of each item. And then once the cost is input, I will then mark if it's pre-washed or not, and then I will go back to my fabric stash, and this uploads it to the stash. And then I am going to repeat the process again until every single fabric is cataloged. So that is what I spent my next week and a half evenings on, but I know it will be worth it because I will actually be able to find the fabrics that I want to use for upcoming projects, and I will have a very, very good awareness of what is in my stash. So with that, we're going to head into my final thoughts. Here we are at the end of this declutter. I don't know exactly how much fabric I decluttered, but I suspect it's around 120 yards. I will put my total number right here. Editing Haley will get to work and get it done. Anything in a roll is less than 3 yards, and I'm just going to donate to my local creative reuse center. Everything over here, I think, I haven't gone through and fully measured these, is more than 3 yards, and anything more than 3 yards I'm going to sell on my Mercari or my Poshmark, so you can check it out there. I'll be selling them pretty cheap. I would say themes of getting rid of things are things I bought either cheaper, like thrifting or stuff, things that are projects that I've had in my project bucket for a very long time but never done. That just tells me I'm not excited about it, and I think at this point I really need to only have fabrics in my stash that I feel excited to sew, and trust me, we have plenty of that. Let me real quick look. I took you around on the Backstitch app, and it's very interesting because obviously I can see a ton of stats for essentially my sewing closet, but basically I have 530 yards of fabric total. And that doesn't count any of my linings. I didn't feel like figuring out my linings right this moment. I kind of ran out of steam. This was a really big project, so I'll do my linings a different day. It's interesting. They have a couple stats they give. One is composition. To no one's surprise, a large majority of my fabric's cotton. And then as far as colors are also all over the place. The biggest thing that I have is multi, which is not a huge shock. And they also give me like weight and when you add your fabric and use your fabric, but none of that is quite relevant right now. So yeah, I'm getting ready to go to a sewing retreat, so I will be bringing all of my donate pile first there to add to the fabric trade that we have in case anybody there wants any of these for free. And again, I still have to go through this whole stack. I'm not gonna lie, I feel just like very tired and unmotivated by this project, but until I finish it, I have tons of fabric sitting everywhere and I'm really ready to be done with that. So I'm just gonna plow through the rest. I just have to basically do yardages. Basically, I just need to take this fabric here, get the total of yards of it. Anything less than 3 yards again, I'll roll and donate. And then everything else I'll list, which is also a lot of work. So yeah, I still have quite a bit of work on this Destash ahead of me, but yeah, I'm tired. This has been over the course of 2 weeks, and I will wrap this up probably in a few more days. So it was a really big undertaking. However, once I get this stack processed and put either in storage or donated, I will be done. As in, like, I will have no more stacks of fabric on the floor, and that was the biggest goal. I'm also got rid of a bunch of patterns that I'll be listing, and it will be really, really good to have all of this stuff out of my house. I took this time as well to go through all of my art textbooks, and I got rid of all of my textbooks from school. So we're starting this space very, very clean and happy craft space this year. But yeah, it was a lot of work and I am fairly exhausted. Hopefully this was a encouraging video for you. Hopefully it encourages you to get rid of those fabrics that just are no longer going to serve your purposes. I do have fabrics in here that I would consider special that I bought in travels or in other countries that when I bought them I had rose-colored glasses and I just don't think I'll use them now that I'm back in my real life, and it's totally okay to get rid of those sentimental things. This is your encouragement to look through your fabric stash and get rid and let go of anything. This is a huge part of my effort towards this year. My goal is to use more fabric than I take in. I think the front half of the year is going to be stacked because I have a trip to New York as well as a sewing retreat and my big sewing conference, which all of those are probably when I'm going to acquire fabrics, but I shouldn't be acquiring very many fabrics post all that, which actually is post March. I think we'll be good to go and I'll be able to reach my goal this year with having 530 yards. Last year I sewed 250 yards, I think, of fabric. So that means I technically only have 2 years of fabric in the stash, which is interesting thought. That's like kind of crazy that I sew through that many. Like, I think of like how many essential like me's are in my fabric stash, and there's at least 3 or 4 Hayleys in my fabric stash, and it's pretty crazy to think that's only 2 years of fabric if I sew at the rate I have been sewing. I do think once I get my stash to the level that I want, which is like very manageable and a lot smaller, I'm hoping then to only be taking in fabrics very intentionally. I do think the result of this over time is going to be a huge increase in my cost per project, because instead of doing a ton of projects, I think I'm going to do less that are more what I want, and I'm going to spend more time altering them. I'm hoping to even maybe learn to pattern draft. I don't know. I feel like when you go through your fabric stash, you should really be seeing your future, not your past, and I'm getting rid of my past here, and I see so much of my future in my stash, and I'm thinking of all the things that I'm going to learn while working through this stash and how that's eventually going to apply to the future of my sewing and the future of the fabric that I'm taking in. So I think that's all really, really interesting. Hopefully that wasn't like a weird, boring tangent my brain went off. But with that said, we are going to wrap this up. As I announced a few videos ago, I now have a Patreon or Ko-Fi monthly membership where you can get early access to my videos as well as access to exclusive polls to help control the direction of projects that I take on this channel. So definitely find that link down in the description and sign up for those if you're interested. It helps support me as an artist. Of course, there are the free things you can do, like liking and commenting down below, as well as sharing with a friend. Share this with a friend who you want to encourage to let go of some things. And then of course, if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do that. I would love to have you stick around. I post every single Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and I hope to see you there. Bye!